Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome. Chief Garnett, it looks like we have you signed in under two names.
That might be my mistake. David, did you send me the link specifically?
I'm not sure. Let me see. Let me double check. Let me.
It just got sent to me, but I don't know by who.
Okay.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Kavitha, can we do a mic check, please?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Renee, can we do a mic check with you, please? We can't hear you. Let's see. You may need to reconnect. It doesn't look like you're using audio at all. Okay, while you're reconnecting. Hi, Matt, can we do a mic check with you, please?
Testing.
We can hear you, thanks.
All right, folks, this is a 3-minute warning. It's 1:57. We'll get started right at 2.
David, did you need a mic check on our side too for Omos?
Yes, we have you. Thanks very much.
Okay, great, thanks.
Dave, this is Nick Butcher checking in.
We see you and we hear you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Sylvia checking in.
We've got your mic. Thank you, Sylvia.
Good afternoon. This is Thea Lara, the lieutenant with the sheriff's office checking in.
Hello, Thea. We hear you loud and clear. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Molly. Can we do a mic check, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Renee, are you having any luck connecting? Okay.
Dave, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can, Dr. Smith.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the December 3rd, 2020 Public Safety and Justice Committee virtual meeting, calling the meeting to order at 2 p.m. And I'll ask the clerk to do a roll call to establish the presence of a quorum.
Good afternoon, Vice Chairperson Wasserman.
Here.
And Chairperson Ellenberg.
I'm here as well. Thank you.
You have a quorum.
Great. Do we have speakers for public comment today?
We currently have 2 speakers, Madam Chair.
Okay, so please set the clock for 3 minutes for each speaker.
Thank you. 1 second.
And I'll ask before the first speaker begins that if there's anybody else that intends to speak at public comment, please raise your hand or indicate that now so that I can reconfirm that 3 minutes is the appropriate amount of time. Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Susan Bassey. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Yes, my name is Susan Bassey. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to talk about some serious public safety issues in our county that the county would like to make sure that doesn't get out. And that is the fact that our district attorney is spending exorbitant resources trying to enforce COVID orders while he is ignoring serious charges such as human trafficking, domestic violence, and real estate fraud. And Ms. Perez is very well aware that in one of those real estate fraud cases, that one of the criminal defendants maintained a 5-year litigation, getting taxpayers to pay for his legal defense in an absolute fraud situation. We have uncovered that for 26 years, Intero real estate agent Patty Felice has been selling properties in your district, Mr. Wasserman, that would be primarily Gilroy, Los Gatos, and Morgan Hill. She has sold over 400 properties since 2008 without a license. Intero agency has held her out as a broker associate. The DRE is now investigating. This involves massive loan fraud. The district attorney has been aware of these and other charges, and yet he continues to use our public resources to enforce COVID rules and try to shut down businesses who are not socially distancing or having everybody wear masks. That means that our district attorney has determined that somebody not wearing a mask is a more dangerous threat to our community than is the threat of a real estate agent selling the homes out from women, men, and children in our community, essentially creating a homeless problem. I have recently learned that the district attorney's hotlines for human trafficking, other fraud, and other issues that are filtered through the whistleblower programs and other lines that the county has set up are quashing federal crimes. My sources at the federal government have informed me that when people are being told that their crimes are being referred to the federal authorities, that Mr. Rosen and his corrupt DAs are getting in the way of these complaints being heard. These complaints involve human trafficking that I will address at tomorrow's special meeting. They involve real estate fraud and they involve serious crimes. And yet Mr. Rosen has decided to use the resources of our law enforcement agency on COVID rules and enforcement, which most orders are going to be determined to be void. He is clogging our courts and our jails with COVID violations and not with the real criminals. Mr. Wasserman, this is coming to your district. It is the biggest real estate scandal in California's history. It could stand to invalidate loans. It is lender fraud. It is mortgage fraud. And it is one real estate agent. And that was just what a broke investigative reporter was able to uncover. So can you imagine what else exists? Until you stop protecting our corrupt district attorney who has rigged elections, rigged court cases, and done nothing but support his own career, our public here in this county will not be safe.
Our next speaker is Scott Largent. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Oh.
Scott?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Oh, can you hear me now?
You
Yes.
sure can.
Oh, okay. I feel like one of those AT&T commercials. That little Zoom box popped up about 4 different times, and I kept trying to click on it to access the meeting right here. But you guys figured out a good way for me to not have much to say at public comment. Whatever I say right now will end up on probably YouTube. That I'm conspiring to, Jeff and I are BFFs, and we're taking down everybody in the county. I'm a little worried if I should actually talk today, but oh well. Miss Bassey likes to put me up on YouTube. I got kind of offended a couple of weeks ago when my grandmother ended up on YouTube. Susan had a phone, and she was filming in my grandmother's home when it was grandmother's birthday. And, these are happy memories I want to have of my grandmother, because I don't think Susan Bassey realizes that my grandmother died 2 months ago from COVID. And I would prefer not to see her up on YouTube like that. That's disrespectful. It's rude. And I believe she broke laws by filming in my grandmother's home. Maybe we could look into that. I would kind of appreciate it. Pictures of my child end up on her YouTube page, all this other stuff. So it's pretty interesting. I am so zoomed out. Okay, I was not going to participate in today's meeting. I've just kind of had enough of Zoom. I prefer the in-person stuff. I'm sure all of you prefer that. We're all going through just hell, I would have to say. But of all things, I get a call this morning. And I was basically getting away from Zoom. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I get to have my visit at 5 o'clock with my daughter on Zoom today.
Right on.
And I get a several hour long visit. And then I get another one a couple days later. And then I get another couple ones after that. And 2 weeks after that, I get in-person visits. I get what I've been begging for. I will be sober as of December 25th, 5 years. I think this stuff should have rolled out in the beginning when I threw in the towel. My daughter's missed out. You guys have heard me talk over and over again. The people I advocate on the streets, they need this bond. They need to be reunited with their family. You need to start paying attention to the people that are on the streets. My issues could have been solved very fast. I would not have eaten up all this county time and resources. And the malicious prosecution is just absurd. Jeff, you're going to crash and burn. Keep going. It just exposes more of your corruption, and it doesn't point the direction. Thank you.
That concludes our speakers.
Thank you very much. Before we move to approve the consent calendar, Supervisor Wasserman, if you are amenable, I'd like to add item 5, the annual report regarding the Adult Custody Office of the Ombuds. That office is doing great work, and I want to thank them for a clear and thorough report.
Thank you. I'll make a motion then to approve 11, 12, and 5 when and if we have any public speakers.
Is it 12? Oh, yeah, there it is. Great. I will second that motion.
Thank you.
And do we have public speakers on the consent calendar?
We do not.
All right. Then consent calendar is approved, which takes us to item 4, to the receipt of verbal reports from the departments on their COVID response. And I will make my same plea that I do before each of these meetings. If you have got something new regarding your COVID response, delighted to hear it. If you don't have anything new, we'll presume that you are continuing your excellent work. I do want to request that Custody Health withhold their verbal report, and we'll take it under item 6.
Thank you, Supervisor. With that, we'll go first to Superior Court. Jadrine?
You're muted, Judge.
You're on mute, Judge.
I apologize, number one, that I wasn't being heard, and now I apologize for maybe having some difficulty being understood. Also, I'll make a little public health announcement here. I would recommend everyone get a shingle shot if you're eligible and can qualify for that, because unfortunately about 3 weeks ago, I've come down with a case of shingles in my ear, which has resulted in facial paralysis. So it's a little difficult to talk. So
Oh, I'm so
I
sorry.
will,
Very sorry.
thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully it's not permanent, and I'm looking forward to recovering from that. But let me tell you about the Superior Court. So the judicial branch, of course, is the third and independent branch of government, and we remain open and accessible to resolve disputes, protect the constitutional and statutory rights of litigants, and to provide a forum for cases where people are incarcerated in locked facilities, vulnerable, and children, among others. While doing this, we are mindful of our role as a responsible member of the community to help in the struggle to stem the tide of COVID cases. On Tuesday, December 1st, I issued an order that does limit access to the courts to those people who have a case pending and other necessary parties, their attorneys, and witnesses. Our clerk's office will continue to process e-filings, and we have drop boxes that can be used that will be monitored and followed up on so that ex partes and other filings by those who can't utilize e-filing will be taken care of. Our self-help center remains open to provide assistance to self-represented litigants. And we continue to make as great a use of remote technology as we can. We will continue to monitor the situation and take further steps as required, and we appreciate working with all of our justice partners in this effort. So thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Moving on to DA Rosen, please.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Moving on to the Office of the Sheriff.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Supervisor Ellenberg and Supervisor Wasserman. Sheriff Smith isn't available this afternoon, but Sergeant Menchaca from the COVID Investigations Unit will talk on behalf of the sheriffs for this item. Sergeant Menchaca, are you there?
Under Sheriff, if I could suggest, maybe we can come back to the Sergeant and temporarily move on to the Public Defender O'Neill.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I don't have any updated information to provide. Thank you.
Moving on then to the Independent Defense Counsel's Office.
No updates. Thank you.
And moving on to the Probation Department, Chief Garnett.
No update, thank you. Not a funny joke, I apologize. Yes, we do have a fairly thorough update, and I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Chief Nick Burchard to outline kind of the high points, and then happy to answer any questions.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. So as you are aware, we have had recent positive tests in our juvenile facilities, both at the Juvenile Hall and the James Ranch. We've had 9 months of really positive outcomes during this pandemic, and unfortunately, due to the COVID spread in our community and everywhere else, it's now impacting us. So currently, we have 7 staff between the 2 locations, the Juvenile Hall and the James Ranch, who have tested positive, and currently 11 youth in custody between the 2 facilities as well. All the youth who have a positive COVID test are being housed in Juvenile Hall because they're able to isolate them and put them in single rooms so that they don't spread the virus to other youth and staff as well. At this point, we're doing, we just finished testing of all the staff at the James Ranch this past Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and began testing all staff at Juvenile Hall as well. That also began on Wednesday and will go through this Saturday because there's more staff. I know Dr. Day is going to report on that probably later, but we've had a really good outcome as far as the numbers of people who have tested, and we're really reaching everybody just to try to find out who these asymptomatic staff may be, so that we can certainly test all those staff begin the tracing, identify, and then quarantine those staff in an effort to mitigate any more COVID spread. And I'll take questions if you have it. Or we can wait till the end. I think we've done that last time, Martha, if I'm not mistaken.
If I can add one more item, unless you want to, Judge Ryan, the juvenile court has issued a directive to not have youth brought to court, so that will cut down on any exposure. I believe the public defender's office is doing everything remotely that they possibly can. So in addition to caring for the youth that are unfortunately positive at this time, we're also doing a lot of mitigation strategies and working just in lockstep with public health and custody health. And I can't say that enough times, because usually the answer to almost any question that anybody has needs to come from them, because we follow them 100% because they're just really great. So we're totally open to any questions, and hopefully maybe they would be too.
And just real quick, the support that we've had from the public health department and custody health department has just been exemplary. They've been so supportive. We're on phone calls all night, early morning, on weekends. Everybody has really stepped up and lended their support to help us really identify what's going on and help us get our hands and arms around this outbreak so that we can stop it and get back to business as we normally do.
Nick and Chief Garnett, thank you both. I do have some questions, but we'll hear all of the reports and then come back. Thank you.
Sure.
Moving on then to reentry services, Javier.
Yes, just quickly update. So Santa Clara County Office of Ed, who was doing in-person classes at the reentry center, will now revert back to remote learning only due to the public health orders. And then also Goodwill has to cut down on the intake appointments. So starting next calendar year, they'll reduce the number just to allow for appropriate safety precautions at their facility. And then finally, we're working with Social Service Agency. There's been an increase in requests for public benefits, and it's overwhelming staff there at the reentry center. And so we will be reaching capacity for public benefits at the reentry center and referring clients to Center Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Javier. Before we circle back around to the Sheriff's Office, let's hear from Pretrial Services, Matt Fisk.
No report for today, thank you.
Great, thank you. Under Sheriff Binder, did you have a report?
Go ahead, yeah. Thank you so much. We had some technical difficulties, but Sergeant Menchaca came upstairs in the building, and she's going to do it from my desk here.
Hi, how are you? I just wanted to give a quick report on our stats. Currently, we have tested 3,982 employees, and 77 are currently positive. Or excuse me, we have had a cumulative of 77 employees test positive. I do want to say that currently we do have 14 out in isolation that have tested positive. I did want to mention also our dashboard. We are on the verge of showing that and actually having a visual available by next week. And also, we did start our 2-week testing, which began on December 1st. So that's going really well. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's all the speakers, Supervisor. We're ready for questions.
Thank you so much. I have questions for both the sheriff and probation, but I'll turn first to Supervisor Wasserman. Do you have questions of any of the departments?
No, ma'am, I don't. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Let's do public comment as well. Do we have any speakers on public comment?
We currently have one speaker, Madam Chair.
Okay, so let's hear that speaker, and please set the clock for 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Thank you. Our next speaker is Scott Largent. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good afternoon, everyone. Scott Largent. The comment that I'm making right now, I tried to, and I fully understand the health order. I fully understand, I get the whole COVID gig. I fully understand why we got to shut everything back down. Access for somebody that is self-represented in court for certain types of issues. What I'm wondering is why we're not making accommodations for those type of people. As an example, if you have like a pending family law case and you might be doing research, let's say you want to pull a criminal file of your ex or, something that happened in the past, you want to use this as evidence for your case, you need to get into that clerk's office there at the Hall of Justice. Some of that information for poor folk or self-represented litigants is not available. The law library has been shut down for the entire time of COVID. The libraries and rec centers have also been all closed down. And those are also other resources for people that are self-represented. I'm not sure how the self-help gig is running down there. I'm sure it's just overloaded with people trying to get help. I didn't want to get into it with the deputy yesterday. He kind of got up in my face, and I understand he has a job to do. But in a way, I'm trying to do not my job, but I'm fighting for my kid, or I'm fighting a case. So it just seems kind of weird because these cases will still be heard, and I'll just be at a disadvantage. I'm going to get slaughtered on this stuff because there's just no resources to be able to properly defend my rights. So it's a hard situation. Maybe we can make accommodations for people like that, because I'm sure there's not too many of them. So it just seems like the right thing to do. So thank you.
That concludes your speakers.
Thank you very much. So starting with the Sheriff's Department, please. As you recognized as well, unfortunately, it looks like employee COVID cases are creeping up again. Given the increases that we're seeing in the larger community, this certainly isn't entirely unexpected. Could you remind us, please, what the masking requirements are for enforcement staff?
So enforcement staff is also mirrors the custody. They are to wear surgical masks and no longer the gaiters or the cloth masks.
Great. So parallel both custody and great. Thank you so much. That was all I wanted to clarify there.
Okay.
And to Chief Garnett and Nick.
Yes.
I know that it is devastating after months of really, really strong success protecting our youth from COVID that we are beginning to see cases both at Juvenile Hall and the ranch. Knowing or presuming that these infections are most likely brought in by staff, what mechanism does the department have for tracking COVID cases at both facilities?
Nick, do you want to take this or you want me to?
We could probably both jump in if I miss something. So along with the custody setting at the jail, as was just mentioned, we are now on a every 2-week cycle of testing for all of our staff. I believe that that's really going to help catch all the asymptomatic folks who just may come in and just, as they said, 60% of all COVID cases are asymptomatic, traced back to that person. So I believe that we'll be able to do that as well, be able to isolate those people, test them and trace, and really put a heavy focus on that testing and tracing capabilities. And we have that opportunity to be able to do that as far as contact based on our surveillance system and being able to see staff who had contact with other staff and really identify those people and put them out so that we can really kind of get back to the tracing and identifying those staff. And now that it is in our facilities, we really have to be diligent on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. How are we tracking the staff testing rates of compliance?
So as of November 30th, when the 2-week mandated testing became effective, as of right now, we had every staff tested at the ranch this Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and we're in the process of doing that at Juvenile Hall as well. This week is that first week of it, and so we've done already 2 days. I know that we had over 90 folks test on the first day. Good. So we're well on our way, I think, to getting everybody tested in Juvenile Hall as well this week.
Good. And is the department working toward developing a COVID dashboard similar to the one that's maintained by the sheriff for adult custody?
I think that we are in that process, and maybe the chief can speak to that.
Yes, we did receive that request. Unfortunately, it kind of coincided with everything else happening, but we've forwarded it to our IT department. They're looking at the sheriff's office. We're definitely intending to try to do that.
Great, thank you so much. And in the meantime, I would like to request that the department incorporate into your daily population report that tracker. I guess not in the meantime, when the tracker is created, to please start including that.
Okay.
The daily report.
In that report, right.
Yes, thank you
Understood.
so much.
Thank you.
That is all I had on those. Do we need a motion to receive those reports? No?
No, we don't.
Thank you, Supervisor Wasserman, always on it for me. Item 5, we approve on consent. Item 6 is to receive our quarterly report from Custody Health Services.
Okay. Good afternoon, Supervisor Ellenberg and Supervisor Wasserman. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to highlight a few activities and initiatives that Custody Health Services are undertaking. The first one I want to talk about is the White Card Project pilot. And in late 2019, there was a request to provide electronic confirmation that a patient submitted a white card or patient request for services. And for 2019, there was a total of 46,630 white card received by inmates. And for the categories of the white cards, these include medical, wanting to see a physician, for instance, for an illness and or a sick call. And we began converting white cards from paper into an electronic process in a pilot. And that pilot was back in January of 2020. Where our HealthLink custody team and our HealthLink colleagues took an Epic product called MyChart and customized it for custody's needs. And the County of Santa Clara, they use a version of this called My Health Online. The project allowed inmates to use the MyChart portal that is typically used in outpatient settings for patients to communicate with their provider and to view medical information. We had a 3-week pilot that was relatively successful. We got positive feedback from both the nursing staff and our patients, but the pilot, however, was interrupted with the onset of COVID. And then additionally, there was a breach where one of the patients was able to uniquely work around the pilot and access Facebook. And so since then, we have basically been working on the backdrop of the pilot. We are going to, in the meantime, we have launched nursing training, and all of the nurses have been trained in the electronic workflows. Clerical staff have been trained in setting up accounts and then how to log in. And then we're teaching our patients on how to use the MyChart. The current status right now is a very aggressive effort to go into phase 2 of the pilot. We have a HealthLink design configuration that's completed. We have tip sheets for both nurses and inmates and our patients, and those are all completed. Our chef staff are testing the preview, and this has also been completed. And training for nurses to provide the type of services that we need for this have been completed. And so we're at a point where we're going to launch the project again, and we hope to have a go-live date on January the 19th, 2021. Another activity I'd like to highlight is our medicated assisted therapy, or MAT. A medication assisted therapy treatment is the use of medication in combination with counseling and behavioral therapies for the treatment of substance use disorders. Our MAT program has been very successful, and this is, of course, a program that is being used nationwide and across the country in both community and in prisons and in jails. And the idea is to help our patients become basically substance free and or in better preparation for going out into the community once they leave the jail. The goal of the program is to create a model that addresses the issues of drug and patient alcohol use while they're in the county jail, and to reduce the risk when patients are released. And upon release, we are also looking at some of the relapse triggers that patients may undergo if they engage in any kind of drug activities once they leave, if there's any kind of recidivism with their criminal activities. And so what we have done just recently, Dr. Willem Lean, who is our Custody Health Services internal physician, and she's the point person as a physician for the MAT grant that we're under. We have just submitted an IRB for approval for a research project to follow some of these patients upon release and look at the impact of medication-assisted therapy while in custody and how well they did upon release. The project will measure how often our patients are following up with the medical care after release, how long it takes for them to follow up, and how often they are hospitalized and or if they're hospitalized after release for any substance use disorder incident. And then we're also looking at the data across if there's any overdoses or overdose deaths. So we'll be working with the coroner's office as well. And then we will also be showing any reduction in mortality and or comorbidities. And so we have an IRB that has been approved by BMC, and so we're excited to get that going. Also want to just mention a couple things. Custody Health Services continues to prioritize the achievements and the outcomes required by the remedial plan in the 2 federal consent decrees that we have. As to the remedial plan, Custody Health Services continues to make COVID-19 management one of our top priorities with bi-weekly COVID-19 management meetings. And we had these joint meetings not only with our sheriff and our custody colleagues, but have public health and we have the county council. We also are holding bi-monthly meetings for all staff, and these are town hall meetings for COVID-19, just to keep information in front of our staff and also for them to ask any questions. Through extensive collaboration on COVID-19 management strategies, we have been fairly successful in keeping the population below 10, although we just had a recent outbreak, as you mentioned, and as we know, with our youth services. We've also launched a new health link screening to better identify inmates with mobility impairments, vision and speech problems, and hearing impairments, and with cognitive disabilities. And over 90% of our patients right now with mental health conditions are being seen by our mental health staff within 4 hours of their intake screening, which is a huge success. And we're also providing, of course, the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week medical coverage through our implementation of VEP contract. And then we're also improving the access to care, allowing patients to be seen for urgent need in real time. Phase 2 of our White Card project that I just mentioned, we're getting ready to relaunch that and go live in early January 2021. Our HealthLink staff continues to also create custody health services management tools so that we can access care and look at data points in real time. And then patients that are in need of glasses who are in custody for more than 30 days are being seen by an optometrist. And we just basically set up new optometry clinics at Elmwood. And of course, we have those at Juvenile Hall as well as Main Jail. And those patients will receive glasses quickly. And although slightly delayed on our COVID restrictions for dental care, the jail is now offering all services required by our remedial plan to include emergent care, urgent care within 5 days, routine dental exams for those who have been in custody for more than a year, and dentures for qualified individuals. And we also had developed an automated health link notification for ADA compliance in classification staff and housing unit staff that notifies Custody Bureau that if a patient has a disability and needs further accommodation, that they would be notified in real time. And we're in the beginning stages for a comprehensive ADA policy and training rollout in early 2021. So those are some highlights I wanted to give on some of the initiatives that we're doing. As mentioned, we've been pretty successful in keeping our COVID-19 positivity rate down in the county jails. For the quarter, we have had a 1.3 positivity rate. The county has a 2.5, and then overall state rate is 3.53. And so we have been pretty successful, very aggressive, and have a very aggressive program around COVID-19. For the quarter, we've also had a 56% participation rate in our staff testing and a 43% participation rate in our custody bureau. And so we're continuing to provide education. We have just recently started self-swabbing. And so hopefully we'll see an increase in participation where our staff under the supervision of nursing staff can self-swab. We're getting our results back fairly quickly within 24 to 48 hours. And so that's been fairly successful as well. With the youth at the ranch in Juvenile, we have wrapped around them quickly, a pretty aggressive plan. And as Nick and Laura mentioned, we have had phone calls. We are meeting frequently to strategize around these patients. We have increased our employee testing, and as Nick mentioned, in the last 3 to 4 days, we've tested 88 staff at the ranch and another 98 at juvenile hall. We've also increased all the testing for the youth, and all the youth have been tested. We tested 14 at the ranch and 49 at juvenile hall. And so our mitigation plan continues to be to test all our employees and our employee staff and the youth at juvenile hall. And then of course, all positive results for the ranch and juvenile hall and employees and youth. We're sending those to public health for sequencing, testing all youth in the juvenile hall, excluding new admissions and separations for those that are exposed. So we're separating those out for airborne and droplet isolation. In the nursing, we have a pretty aggressive plan around nursing. We're staffing at the highest level of nursing right now. And we also are increasing the hours. It's so that if we're bringing in extra help, if we need to take care of those patients that are COVID positive. And so that's my report. If you have questions, we do have sufficient PPE. We have donning and doffing, especially now with the COVID increase at the ranch. So we're all the nurses are trained in how to don and doff and how to take off their gear once they're away from the patient. So there we have posters that are up. We have video training. We have audio that is being sort of heard over speakers for the youth. And so we're really holistically wrapping around this incident now to bring it under control to mitigate any more outbreak.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Wasserman, do you want to ask a clarifying question or make general comments? I can go to public comment first and then come back to us? Sure. Is that all right with you? All right, thank you very much. Do we have speakers on public comment?
We do have one, Madam Chair.
Okay, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Scott Largent. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you, everyone. Scott Largent. You know, hearing a lot of the stuff that we're doing in the jail and then also at the different boys ranches and juvenile hall to help people that are either COVID positive or, you know, stay clean, stay sanitized. I mean, it sounds like you guys got this handled in a way, but we've let so many people out of our jail, out of juvenile hall, out of the boys ranch. What about the people that are out on the streets now that need these type of services? A lot of these people do need to be incarcerated. They need mental health services. They need to be pulled out of the environment that they're in. That environment now is like out of a sci-fi movie. And there has been bad meth that was on the streets. I found this out from a lot of different people in law enforcement, all the way up to the top in a way. By not notifying advocates, churches, people in the community that this stuff exists and it's making people go absolutely nuts, it is not very helpful, and it puts a lot of people at risk. We do not test people when they get arrested. We do not, I mean, as far as for drugs. We only do a full tox screen when they're on that slab and they're dead. Wouldn't we want to figure out what they're ingesting, what poison they're getting into? PCP is back. Flocka is in our neighborhood too. That's a wicked one. KJ. And then of course the mixture of all the fentanyl and all this stuff. These people are going insane. They're in the middle of traffic. They're screaming, yelling. I keep saying this. Downtown's insane now. Let's help these people. I don't understand why you don't. We need like FEMA camps. Down the street from where you guys are at right now should be a FEMA camp. The parking lot should be a FEMA camp. You know, we need all this right now. And watching it is like a third world country. So
that concludes our speakers.
Thank you. Supervisor Wasserman.
Thank you, Chair Ellenberg. Is the doctor still with us?
Yes, I am.
All righty. I'm not. Okay, good. Doctor, 3 things. One, I think you're very, very modest regarding your success rate, the positivity rate of 1.3. Any city, county, or state would love that. So kudos to you for achieving that and maintaining that thus far. My first question, can we mandate testing legally of those that are incarcerated?
I think I would have to defer to the public health officer. We take our direction from the public health officer. And so if she were to put that order out, certainly we would follow it. But right now the order is just to require. And so with requiring, we do encourage our staff to get tested. We have made testing more frequently available to them. The self-swabbing, we hope to see that with an increased participation rate. We're also doing pop-up tents, and so they would be able to test outside of the jail setting. But for mandatory, that would have to come from the public health officer.
You would need that from Dr. Cody. Okay. And my second and final question is, of those incarcerated or staff working there, do you have any knowledge of anyone who had tested positive and then returned to health and is tested positive again?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'll also begin by congratulating Dr. Day and your department for increasing your compliance testing rate from August 3rd to September 6th. It was 50% compliance. November 2nd to 22nd, an increase to 74.3%. Really is impressive. So thank you for that. I did have just some questions regarding the charts that were provided in the report. In the column for staff tests, are these the total number of allotted tests?
For the compliance rate? Those are, the denominator is that number of those staff that are either essential workers that are coming to work. We back out those staff that are working remotely from home. And so that number, that denominator basically is for folks that are showing up to work, that are behind the perimeter and or on the floors and that are considered essential staff. That does include any contract staff that come in. And so anyone who is coming in working on behalf of the patient, they're included in that denominator.
Okay, thank you. So part of the reason that it may look like less than the number smaller number of staff that needs to be tested because we're not including people who are not working.
Right, and we
we're not
also,
working in the office.
We have some staff who may go to their private providers. And so we're only counting the staff that we test who are coming to work, and others are backed up if they have tests from their private providers. Although we're tracking those separately.
Okay, so I don't know if this is a similar question. Then in period 1, there are 612 tests available, but 551 staff members were tested. What happened with those remaining 61 tests? The kits, the tests themselves.
Are you looking at the chart for asymptomatic testing for?
I'm looking for the page number, sorry. Yes. You have the chart with periods 1, 2, and 3. You know what I will do, Dr. Day?
Yeah, mine is not set up that way.
Okay, so I had sent the questions, or Yvonne from my office had sent these questions to you prior to the meeting to give us a chance to literally get on the same page and find the page numbers. So why don't I ask you to circle back with her and send that to us off agenda, please.
Okay, great. And sorry I missed that email. I was in interviews all morning.
Not a problem. I'll ask her via this right now to please resend it. That takes us to the end of item 6. Don't need a motion here either. And Dr. Day, you are still up on for item 7, which is to receive a report from Custody Health Services relating to therapeutic programs as incentives for downclassing.
Okay, very good. And again, Custody Health Services, we take the mission very seriously in providing care for our patients, especially during this COVID-19 unprecedented time. As you know, there's several barriers that we have run into with our patients to include limited space, time, movement, and then adhering to physical and social distancing. However, we do have the therapeutic services that the patients can continue to participate in. We offer the contactless groups. We offer reading clubs, art therapy, addictions counseling, mindfulness, anger management. And so the patients are also not only participating in these contactless groups, they're also, if they are also being compliant with their medication, for instance, they're modulating their behaviors, they're regulating their behaviors. Either our clinicians and or our custody colleagues can initiate a request for the patient to be reclassed or declassed and step down. Our custody colleagues, we work in collaboration with them, and it's a coordinated effort. And so we're working in tandem with them. And so our custody colleagues, I believe they're on now because it is a coordinated effort when we're looking at this incentive program for the patients to be declassed and step down, downclassed and step down. And so I do have, I believe Captain Duran is on, and part of the reason I'm asking Captain Duran to also speak to this is just to show the collaboration and the partnership and making sure that the patients who have the opportunity as they participate in this incentive program have the opportunity to be downclassed. And we can't do that without our custody partners. And so I don't know if Captain Duran is on.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great.
Yeah, as described, it is a collaborative effort between behavioral health and the Custody Bureau's classification unit. We try to house individuals discussed in our multidisciplinary treatment team meetings in the least restrictive setting available based on the individual's current in-custody behavior, security level, and therapeutic needs.
Thank you very much. Do we have public speakers on this item?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Wasserman, any questions or comments?
No, ma'am.
I will just say thank you for the reports. I'm looking forward to your next steps as you move to formalize this program. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Item 8, and I just want to remind all of the committee members who are up here, I try to remember to look at to see whether there are raised hands, but if you want to make a comment and I am not acknowledging you through the raised hands, please give me a signal. I'll ask the clerk to keep an eye out for that as well, should any of our committee members want to make a comment or ask a question at any time. Item 8 is to receive a report from the Office of the Sheriff relating to grievance trends submitted for 2019 and 2020. And who do we have teeing that up?
Good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair. Oh, I'm sorry, Under Sheriff, go ahead.
Captain, no, go ahead, thank you.
This is Captain David Sepulveda, Custody Bureau Administration, and along with me is Lieutenant Joe Nguyen from our grievance unit, and he's going to give a quick overview of the response.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is a report back from last month's grievance report. This report was requested by Supervisor Wasserman, who wanted information regarding a comparison between the 2019 and 2020 grievance statistics, specifically to compare the percent of inmates who filed grievances in October 2019 versus the percent of inmates who filed grievances in October 2020. Based on the information available to the Sheriff's Office, we were able to create a graph which provides the average population and total grievances by month to compare the years 2019 and 2020. The reason we are not able to provide the percentages as requested is due to the fluid nature of the population that changes hour to hour, and because we do not have an up-to-date jail management system that can report the total number of actual inmates who had the ability to file a grievance each month. If we use the average daily population number, it would provide inaccurate data since the percentage would be based on the ADP and not the actual number of inmates in custody for that month, which is quite different. The average daily population number is a single point in time count, which shows how many people are in the jail at that moment. It is not a total count of the number of individual people who are incarcerated during that 1 month period that could file a grievance. You might equate our population to an emergency room. Imagine that an emergency room has 25 beds, and at 7 a.m. each morning, the number of patients in those beds is counted. The number is provided as the ER population count for the day. This isn't an actual patient count, as it misses those people who receive care and were discharged in that 24-hour period each day. It also misses those people who are still in the waiting room for their turn to be seen. Although we were not able to provide percentages as requested, we believe we found another way to examine the data with similar results until that data is available to us in the future. We stand ready for questions.
Thank you. Do we have public speakers? Jill, Dave?
We do, Madam Chair. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm
no
not sure
worries.
if Jill's having a connection issue.
Okay,
Sorry, my mouse wasn't working there. We do have 2 speakers, Madam Chair.
okay, terrific. Let's put the clock for 2 minutes each. Thank you.
Our first speaker is Ron Hansen. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you. Good afternoon, supervisors and committee members. I'm Ron Hansen, affiliated with PAC, People Acting in Community Together. I've come before this committee on several occasions to acknowledge the Sheriff Department's public sharing of its jail grievance data, a practice, as far as I know, that is unique in California. However, Supervisor Wasserman's request that drove today's item tells me that this committee believes that more value can be extracted from this data besides the mere reporting of numbers. At its base, the request is twofold: were jail detainees more or less likely to grieve compared to a year ago, and percentage-wise, how many detainees filed a grievance? Using the graph in the report, one sees that except for September and October, detainees were more likely to grieve in 2020 than 2019. But unfortunately, the department cannot determine percentage-wise how many detainees file a grievance, apparently due to its inability to count how many people come into the jail in a given month, and its unwillingness to use the average daily population, or ADP, as we heard just a moment ago, which does report every single day as its population metric in these important calculations. Were it to use ADP, one would instantly see that every month, 1 of every 2 women in our jail files a grievance. This is a filing rate that is nearly 5 times higher than the men in the same facility. Would you know this from the report you received today, or those that the sheriff posts every month? I'm afraid we don't see that. And yet the department already has the data I believe that it needs. Please continue to demand more from this department in these critically important reports. The men and women in our county's custody deserve better. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Scott Largent. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good afternoon, everyone. Scott Largent. I'm a little concerned about the jail grievance system, just in regards to, and this is a street name, it's Simple Rose. And you've heard me talk about Rose, a wonderful woman that was living on the side of the old city hall before you guys actually swept the area and put up a big, big fence. That woman filed a grievance when she was in custody about her civil court proceeding. She was not taken to the civil courthouse. She was in custody, and no one listened to that grievance. Rose kept filing grievances. No one listened to that. That I find is very strange. So then we decided, hey, why don't, oh, getting a little interrupted there. Somebody must not want to hear me. So what we did is we ended up, talking with the public defender. We talked with the head of the mental health system there, and we keep asking and asking why nobody is kind of correcting this wrong. Rose deserved to have her day in court, and it's wrong what you guys did to her. What also is very cruel is to convince the woman that she's on a mental health hold when she's not. You guys manlied a woman that it wasn't legal what you did. And putting these people on probation in Manly's department for an excess of 10 years, I believe, is violating their rights in the law. Some of these crimes only require 1 year of probation. It kind of seems like you guys keep these people in this little dragnet. That woman needs a lot of help, and her ending up on the side of City Hall and then sweeping her again, and I can't find her now. And that's very sad. I have a good relationship with her. She's a wonderful woman that went through a lot of bad things years back. And this stuff does make people go crazy over time. I mean, we see it happen with a lot of people. Maybe look at that grievance and fix the right. Or should I say the wrong?
Thank you. That concludes our speakers.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Wasserman, this was your request. Do you have follow-up questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. And Lieutenant, you're still on?
Yes, sir.
I'm looking, there you are. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the effort you made in trying to make this happen. I was surprised it wasn't in there the first time. Now I understand how much more time and effort is necessary to get to what I was looking for. And I appreciate the 1, 2, 3, 4 charts that you had in your report. I'm a chart guy, so that was great. Dividing up a number of different ways. I'm really trying to get down to what I've felt, but I wanted verifiable numbers to prove it, is that the grievances are going down. But when your population goes down and your grievances go down, that kind of all, that's hard to decipher. So total number of people, whatever it may be, if you could keep this issue in the back of your mind going forward, and if there's some way at some point where you've got metrics, numbers, stats, data, whatever, that you think would produce that trend or those percentages to bring back to this committee through the chair, I'd sure appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We will definitely do that.
Thank you. I understand it's all very fluid. Perhaps it is total number of people that come in and out of the doors per month. I don't know exactly what it is, but if we're going to be, I mean, we have the total number of grievances, but again, it's all relative to the total number of people there to grieve. So thank you for what you've done, and I look forward to something else coming in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I had a slightly different take on the numbers, and was really troubled by the fact that the report says that the department can't provide an average annual grievance rate because the population rates are based on a point in time. I understand that. I understand that the jail has a quickly revolving population and that it's possible for someone to enter the jail, submit a grievance, and then leave without being included in the pit count. So I get, and it's fine, that makes it impossible to match inmate population and grievances one-to-one in all situations. We know that the population will never be stable enough for a real monthly population rate, but that said, the fact that the same measurement is used month after month provides consistency that does allow for an average measurement to be taken. As long as we are doing the same thing pre-COVID and now, the comparison should be the same. It doesn't matter that it is not one-to-one. It matters that we use the same consistent measurement system. And when we compare the average monthly grievance rate for 2019 for January through October and compare it to the average monthly grievance rate for 2020 using those same months, we see that the 2020 grievance rates are higher. In 2019, the monthly average was 16.45, and in 2020, it was 20.26. So even though we've seen a decrease in jail population and a reduction in the overall number of grievances, the proportional rate of grievance using the same measurements in 2019 and 2020, the 2020 number is higher. So I'm really troubled by the assertion that the grievances are down 44% for this year. To me, that seems a little misleading. And I wonder why it matters so much to you that we can't do that one-to-one as long as we're using the same measurement over time. Why would that make a difference?
Hey, Supervisor, this is Captain Sepulveda responding.
Thanks, Captain.
We can offer that statistic if you so choose to have that in the report. We just didn't want to provide a statistic that we know the percentage is going to be quite significantly different. And the reason I say that is because we looked at the number of inmates housed in the month of November, this past November, which gives us an indication of how many came in, and conversely, how many people were released when we measured it against the average daily population. And so we determined that about 1,100 persons came in custody and were housed, and conversely, a subset of that combination of folks coming in and were in custody, probably about the same amount were released. And so that kind of gives us an indication that, like today's population was, I believe, 2,220 2,208. So that would kind of indicate, if we use that number, it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,200 inmates, but that changes month to month and it depends on the circumstances. So what we didn't want to do was provide you with a statistic showing a percentage that's a far higher grievance rate than actually it is in reality. So we were concerned about not providing we didn't want to provide inaccurate data. We can certainly provide that data with the understanding that the rate is going to be based on the average daily population, as long as everybody understands that. And I do understand where you're coming from, that the rate could indicate, the highs and lows throughout the year and where we're really at. I'm just not sure how that's going to play out long term, simply because month to month that number can change, and we don't really know what that number is. We pull this data manually, and it takes a lot of staff time to pull it manually because we don't have a system that actually retrieves that data. So, but again, going forward, if you would prefer that we provide that, knowing that that's what we're going to get, then we'll be happy to do that for you.
So let me be clear that I would never ask for data that is inaccurate. I'm just not feeling persuaded that the method that I'm suggesting isn't accurate, as long as it is the same system that is used prior to the pandemic and will be used afterward. I'm seeing the reverse, that this decline of 44% in grievances doesn't jibe with the actual numbers of grievances. It's not the comparison year over year that I think is really critical. So I am clearly not asking for information that is incorrect or to be presented in a manner that's incorrect. But I do believe that with the same amount of effort, using a consistent measuring system, we should be able to get data that everyone agrees on. Yes, Supervisor Wasserman?
Thank you. I'm going to ask the captain and the lieutenant, if they would please, through the chair, to look at package page 13 and 14, which is page 2 and 3 of your report. Page 2 has the blue horizontal bar, monthly average inmate population. Are you both with me on that?
Yes.
Yep, thank you. And so I just took the middle of the year, June. Average population in June of 2019 was 3,264. The same June in 2020 was 2,105. And I said to myself, okay, Mike, that's June 2020's is 2/3 of June 19. 2,100 is roughly 2/3 of 2019 average population. And Lieutenant, I see you shaking your head yes, nodding your head yes. Okay, you're muted.
Thank you.
So then I went to the next page, which has the horizontal black bar. It says total grievances per month. And I saw June of 2019 of 537. 2/3 of 537 is about 340. So if you take the population of June 19 and the population of June 20, that ratio, and look at the grievances of June 19 and June 20, to be apples to apples, June 20 population, if it was the same ratio, would be roughly 340 grievances rather than 416. So that might be a way at least to compare apples to apples. If you look at the average population in 2019, the average population in 2020, and whatever that ratio is, I would hope the 2020 grievances were at or below that number. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
This is quickly turning into a math class, which will give me all sorts of anxiety, but let me share, just particularly for you, Supervisor Wasserman, what calculations I did just to make sure we are all talking about the same numbers. For 2019 and 2020, what I did was I took the total number of grievances per month and divided them by the population for that month. And then to find the average grievance rate, I added up the monthly percentages for January through October. And those added up percentages for both years was divided by 10 for the number of months of data. And that's where I got the comparable averages in 2019 of 16.45 and 2024 was 20.26. So I think ultimately we're all sort of dancing around the same information, and the detail seems to be in how it is presented. So I think, Captain, you got some good feedback from myself, from Supervisor Wasserman, from Ron Hansen, from the public speakers, on the kind of consistency that we believe is possible with the information that you have now, and without asking for additional work. I understand that it does take a long time to do this manually, but I think that we can get to a place where we can all agree on the numbers, please.
Yeah, we will definitely do that. Oh, right.
Sorry, may I make another comment, Madam Chair?
Of course.
Thank you, and I appreciate the other way. With numbers, there's often several different ways to play with them and do with them and whatever you want to say. For instance, if you look at February 19 and 20's population, they were each about 3,200, 3,209, and 3,276. So February 19 versus February 20. Then you look at total grievances, February 19 versus February 20, and it went down from 570 to 528. So that was an improvement, per capita, if you will. But then in other months like April, for whatever reason, doubled the other way. So I think, as you said, it's an interesting exercise that can be done here, especially if you're a numbers guy. What I'm looking for overall, though, is that our number of grievances per inmate, per population, is trending downward. Whether our overall jail population goes up or down or stays the same, I'm hoping with all the efforts that's been made by the officers working there, and that we're able to measure some sort of improvement. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a way to measure the efforts that you've made are having a positive effect. And I think that's the only way to look at when you make change, you need to measure it. Otherwise, you don't know if the change you made is for the better or for the worst or not. So anyway, thank you for the time.
Thank you so much. Anybody else want to weigh in with their calculations before I move on? All right, item 9 brings us to our study session, where we will receive a report from the Office of the Sheriff, Custody Health Services, and the Office of the County Exec relating to well-being training and supports for our custody staff, who probably need it even more now that we've put them through the algebra class.
Thank you, Supervisor. So as part of this study session, there'll be a presentation from Lieutenant Aspan from the Sheriff's Office, as well as Dr. Day and Anu Purumatan from Custody Health Services, and Landy Lopez and Teresa Shigoya from the county's learning organization. So as you said, this is a look at the well-being services currently available and in development for custody staff, as well as the desired goals to be achieved through the availability of these programs. And so with that brief introduction, I'm going to turn this over to Lieutenant Aspan.
Thank you, Martha. Good afternoon, committee. The Sheriff's Office is committed to providing staff with the skills and tools to establish a positive culture in the jails. This is reinforced by executive buy-in, policy and procedure development, training and programs that support staff development and employee wellness. Beyond the basic training required for working in a correctional setting, staff are provided with training to help them better understand the dynamics of the inmate population they interact with on a daily basis. Through greater awareness of the concerns and motivations of individuals from varied backgrounds, staff are equipped with communication skills required to provide more compassionate, competent services to the diverse inmate population with reduced stress on individual staff members in their day-to-day operation. Staff are also provided with tools, techniques, and strategies for coping with daily stress from both their work and home environment. Moreover, supplementary training is provided for sergeants that highlights their role and expectations within the facilities relating to their role in changing the culture in the jails. The Peer Support Program is an internal program developed and run by the Sheriff's Office. Members of the Peer Support Team are personnel from the Sheriff's Office who provide support to staff experiencing either personal or work-related stress. The Peer Support Team members are also available to provide support during and following critical or traumatic incidents resulting from performance of duty. The team will coordinate critical incident stress management debriefs as needed. During stressful or difficult times, the peer support team is able to relate to other staff and provide support with compassion and understanding. Additionally, they assist us in providing outside resource options to those in need. The team maintains a high level of confidentiality. The Sheriff's Office has its own SO Sheriff's Office Wellness Initiative, with its motto and hashtag being Mission Unified Wellness. Although this program mirrors the employee wellness program provided by the county, the Sheriff's Office Wellness Program is specific to meet the physical and emotional needs of law enforcement and professional staff. The Wellness Committee's aim is to provide information on topics such as healthy eating, meditation, staying active, community resources in order to promote a healthy lifestyle and support physical and emotional well-being. In addition, the Sheriff's Office Human Resources Unit work directly with staff in need of additional or more specific support services from the county's Employee Assistance Program or other contract services. This concludes my presentation. Captain Oberdorfer of our training division, Lieutenant Lira from Peer Support, and I are available to respond to questions if you have them.
No, ma'am.
Why don't we go through the whole report, Supervisor Wasserman, and do public comment and questions from any of the committee members, and then wrap up with us, if that's all right?
Sounds good.
Fantastic.
If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. And go ahead, Dr. Day, please.
Okay, very good. And just to continue, Custody Health Services, we've taken a very deliberate effort to build a culture of resiliency for our staff. We're aiming to create a more satisfying professional environment where we're fostering staff wellness, and that ultimately will lead to patient safety and an increase in quality of care. Part of what we're doing, and we're giving our staff a voice. We're giving them a voice to be able to share their lived experiences, especially under the times where we are today with this unprecedented, COVID-19, civil unrest, political strife, and of course, structural deficits. We are holding right now town hall meetings. Town hall meetings are basically a strategy as a communication strategy to keep our staff informed. We have had town hall meetings across juvenile services as well as main jail in Elmwood. I guess this gives the staff an opportunity to voice concerns around what they see currently in custody health services. And it also allows us to keep information in front of our staff, to keep them informed, to let them know what's going on around them, to let them know about COVID-19 activities, and then also to provide more focus groups where we could talk about opportunities for improvement. Right now, we are working on morale, and we're building activities around morale and building cohesive teams. We have quite a few strategies that we're looking at for team activities, professional development, and working in collaboration with learning organizations on additional programs and services. We're looking at working across disciplines, and right now we're looking at working across disciplines, especially with our patients. The model right now is we have one patient, and that patient may happen to be a mental health patient with a diagnosis who also happens to have medical comorbidities and who also needs to have dental work. And so we're looking at the whole person care, wrapping around one patient with more integrated services that we offer. We are encouraging, I'm holding leadership meetings, and all of the managers need to be holding meetings with their staff as well. We're holding meetings, what we call Friday Flash, and this is an opportunity for me to provide all of the leadership staff a high-level overview of what's going on in the county and any other pertinent information that they may need to be privy to. In turn, I'm asking that information, as long as it's not proprietary, that they also push that information down into their own staff meetings so that we have a dissemination of information both vertically and horizontally at the point of care all the way up, and keep our staff informed. We're also looking at ways to bring our staff into the discussion as we're looking at strategies to improve not only the service delivery areas that we're doing, but also with our patient care activities. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Anu.
Thank you, Dr. Day. Hello, everyone. This is Anu Permatam. During a stressful time, in addition to providing the employee assistance program related online resources for such as relaxation exercises and techniques, CHS also collaborated with the employee assistance program to provide group sessions for our staff using EMDR therapeutic tool called Flash. This was to address the distressing thoughts or emotions due to work-related trauma or COVID-19 related stress for our staff members. We have also offered individual EAP sessions for our staff members to address the anxiety, stress, or depression for our staff, especially during this stressful time due to COVID. We have also collaborated with International Association of Human Values, IAHV, to provide an evidence-based training on stress management and rehabilitation, which is called SMART program. This training enhances our staff members equipped with evidence-based techniques to manage stress for themselves and also to utilize those techniques for our patients, to help them with the anxiety reduction or stress management levels. The next topic will be professional development. So this is one of the highest priority area for custody health, provision of adequate trainings for our staff members. Custody health established ongoing new employee trainings, annual trainings. We have also initiated trainings, mandated trainings focusing on our consent decree requirement items. In addition to these trainings, on the routine or ongoing trainings, we have also providing additional trainings based on analysis or QI findings such as de-escalation training, treatment engagement strategy training, etc. We are also working and collaborating with the Learning Partnership to develop some future training programs for our staff and managers. Dr. Day, partnership and collaboration for Dr.
Very good. With partnerships and collaboration, I'm pretty excited about this area. Right now, you mentioned Supervisor Ellenberg, the Office of Mediation and the Ombudsman Services. And so I have been working very closely with Josh Berkowitz and Braun Lawlorn, and we have submitted a proposal on behalf of Custody Health Services. And we have a kickoff on the 12th of, December the 9th with an all town hall staff meeting. I'll be introducing both Josh and Braun to the staff. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at dealing with stressful environments and unstable workplace environments currently with our staff. We'll be having reconciliation and restore trust and confidence in custody health services. And our aim is to become an employer of choice. We're implementing techniques to improve interpersonal communication and interaction amongst and between our staff persons, and to provide both formal and informal conflict resolution strategies. And so I'm pretty excited about that. We are setting up a series of these separate sort of third party, if you will, opportunities for staff to discuss freely the things that are going on for them in custody health services, not only to address the stressful situation, the unprecedented times that we're in, but also any other activities towards building a cohesive work team. I'm also meeting with Alma Burrell, and she is with the San Jose Roots Clinic. I have a meeting with her tomorrow, by the way, and we're going to be looking at how we can collaborate and exchange ideas on virtual wellness programs. So I'm pretty excited about that. Also, and look at any other wellness programs with patients as they leave and go back into the community, how they can be supported for continuity and care and transitioning back into the community. And so those are some of the collaborative efforts we're doing with partnerships with other entities. And then you want to take patient wellness?
Yeah, thank you. So we do recognize stressors for our patients in addition to their incarceration during this COVID. There are several stress factors. It's stressful for everybody. So during COVID time, Custody Health created videos on various relaxation exercises for our patients. And these videos were handed over to custody leadership for playing those videos in the housing unit TV circuits. The goal was to educate our clients about deep breathing exercise, mindfulness, and some other simple relaxation exercises which they can easily learn and which they can easily utilize on a daily basis for their self reduction of anxiety and stress. Custody Health also created relaxation techniques flyer for our patients, basically explaining some of the simple relaxation techniques or processes to provide information and to educate them about relaxation methods like deep breathing exercises, how to do that, etc. We have also created some innovative non-contact groups for providing therapeutic programs during this COVID times. And Dr. Day mentioned in one of the previous presentation about these non-contact groups. And these efforts are all in addition to our routine services and therapeutic services we are providing on a daily basis to all of our patients while they are in custody. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you.
And the last piece of the presentation is from the learning organization. Go ahead, Landy.
Actually, Teresa Shigoya, our Manager of Employee Wellness, will kick us off, and I'll join in just a minute.
Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, Supervisor Ellenberg and Wasserman. I am Teresa Shigoya, the Manager of the Employee Wellness Division. I wanted to thank you for giving us this opportunity to briefly highlight the engagement and well-being opportunities and resources that we have available to all employees. You see a few of those resources outlined on the slide on your screen. The first one we wanted to highlight is the dynamic and really resource-rich web presence on both our internal and external sites that are available for employees. They can find resources such as our Know Your Health, Keep Your Health educational series. We have preventive health tips and techniques to improve well-being services, and also be able to find those services that are available from each of the county health providers. Those providers have provided microsites for our county employees that offer resources such as dental health, eye screenings, flu clinics, wellness services, and really any of the benefits they have available to their members from their respective health plans. In addition, the next little piece of information we have there is our, the last 7 years almost, we've had our wellness champions, which have grown into our employee engagement and well-being champion network. It's comprised of approximately about 150 employees representing about 40 workplaces throughout the county. The impact specifically of these champions has been captured on data-wise through our employee engagement and well-being survey, which has shown that our employees who could identify a champion within their department are twice as likely to be engaged at a department level. So that's really great information for us because it does also match the information we've actually heard from our champions, that personal outreach from a peer, from a colleague or a mentor, a manager, or director really makes a huge difference on their engagement and the participation in the county services that are available to them. So I'd like to, at this point, turn it over to Landy so she can expand a little bit more about the champions and how they are helping to amplify our efforts. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and champions are truly integral to our work, and we're very grateful for their many contributions to team well-being. We encourage our champions to take the ideas and practices that we share in the network and adapt them to their department needs and goals. And this can be in a variety of formats, including driving participation in our countywide well-being challenges, including our recently concluded Take Time campaign, which focused on mindful activities, or our just launched High Five campaign in partnership with TSS, which helps colleagues share notes of recognition virtually through an app developed by the Department of Technology Services and Solutions. Our champions also help us promote classes offered by our fitness and benefit providers, and they focus on all dimensions of well-being, including building healthy habits and practicing gratitude. And in addition to these countywide offerings, we're of course glad to partner with departments to address emergent needs. And so some of those have taken form in terms of focused promotion on health coaching. We've worked with departments to bring specific fitness and well-being sessions to meet departmental goals to their units. And we have, as Dr. Day alluded to, begun to have that discussion with her office about how we might look at some of those partnerships in the future. So these are just a few of the highlights of currently available resources for county employees and our possible partnership opportunities. And we're happy to take questions.
Thank you. And that concludes our presentation. We'll take questions now.
Thank you so much. Let's go to public comment and then come back for broad committee input and questions.
No public speakers, Madam Chair.
All right. Then I would like to open the floor, open the screen to any of the committee members who want to ask questions or share comments on any of this material. And Jill, please help me if anybody wants to speak that I'm not noticing.
No.
None as well.
All right, then back to Supervisor Wasserman.
Me either. I don't have any questions. I enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will bring it back here then. The presentation was interesting, and certainly it was a great opportunity, particularly the last piece, to see what we do broadly for our employees. But I think the initial intent of this, and I'm recalling a statement that Sylvia Perez, the independent public defender, made last time, is that what we really want to know for purposes of this committee is whether we are being successful in promoting a culture of positive change, particularly in the custody setting. We know that there's been a lot of input generally across the county, a lot of good employee engagement programs, much work done to reform custody policies, but we still hear from inmates, sometimes from attorneys, experiences of staff using perhaps derogatory language or gestures when referring to inmates, perhaps not behaving in the respectful way that we would like to expect with regard to in interactions, particularly with inmates who may be having mental or behavioral health issues. And I'm wondering how we connect the two. If we are doing really good programs, whether countywide or specifically in custody, how do we measure? Because as Supervisor Wasserman said, with regard to the last item, we don't know what we're doing if we don't know if we're having any success if we don't have a measure. So that's a piece that I would be interested in hearing either from the speakers or from any of the committee members for that matter, as to whether there's anything more quantitative than simply looking at the number of programs we offer and the number of incidents that are occurring, particularly in custody, but certainly you could make the same argument across the county. And maybe we're just all done being on screens, which is understandable as well. All right, well, I won't, yeah, Sylvia, go ahead.
Yeah, so I believe your comment is completely accurate. I think it is difficult to measure. I will say I also enjoyed the presentation, and as I was listening to it, I was trying to understand how we are able to narrow down the broader county efforts of health and wellness, and I've heard, these services being offered, but I struggle even among my own smaller county staff, whether they are in fact engaged, because the engagement piece is probably the most dramatic and the more difficult. And then once they engage, that's even the first step, which is they took the class, but then what did they take out of the class? And then if they took something positive out of the class, how did that actually translate into their daily practices, behaviors, emotions, and how did that really translate into a tangible positive outcome evident in their work performance and in their competencies and in their skill sets? And I think your point is an excellent one, because all of us as county employees want to see all of our county employees thrive. And our focus right now in our custody staff is because we know that it is a very difficult job with very difficult challenges, with a lot of public interface. And that public interface is of concern for us. And so I think your point is well taken. And I think I would throw out there that it is something that can and should be measured, and beginning with those layers, which is of those services that are offered by the county, how many behavioral custody health staff are actually engaged. And when they are engaged, I'm sure we do surveys all the time, we do feedback to put our sort of finger in the pulse in terms of, are these services resonating with them? Because maybe they need to be uniquely tailored to the unique setup and the unique circumstances that they have. And then keep in mind, Molly and David Epps and I, we all sort of have the same clientele, right? The custody staff are dealing with these clients in the custody setting. We handle them and we deal with them from the legal services end. We all have that stressful component. So we all actually benefit from the learning and getting feedback and understanding about how are we really targeting some of these services for the unique work that is of particular concern and present particular challenges for our employees.
I think you raise a really good point, and my comment was perhaps unfairly limiting by thinking about people's own health in terms of how they treat others. The first piece is really looking inward at the individual. I have no doubt that employees in custody are, particularly during COVID, very stressed. They're working in an environment where anxiety is high. There aren't opportunities to relax, certainly in a fairly grim custody setting. So I think there are two pieces to measure. One is the health of our employees in custody. How are they doing? What responsibility do we have as the county to find ways to help mitigate that stress and that anxiety that comes along with being in that sort of environment? And then secondly, not secondarily, but as a second piece, how does their behavior and self-actualizing experience translate to treatment of inmates? So both are really significant pieces, and I think both warrant empathy and both warrant measurement, so that we know if we're doing the right things, and if we are not doing the right things, what can we learn and how can we pivot so that we can both better serve our staff and our staff can better serve and engage with the custody population for whom they're responsible. Molly.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say I enjoyed the presentation as well, and pivot a little off of what you just said and circle back to something I brought up right before COVID hit, which is if you're looking at how custody staff are self-actualizing or doing mindfulness work so that they themselves are healthier and can, in the case of correctional officers, treat those that they're overseeing better, I would ask again that the Department of Corrections consider some fairly low-hanging fruit, quick wins in my mind, which is to think about the language that's used when talking about in custody clients. So, for example, they refer frequently, and it's culturalized. I don't think it's an intentional act on any one person, but women are referred to as X's, and all inmates are referred to as bodies. The bodies are moving. It's feeding time. It's dehumanizing language, and I think if we're all going to try to be mindful about kind of how we're treating each other, especially during this pandemic, it would be really useful. One other example is the circling of the finger to get to the 8th floor in the elevator to signal that you want to go to the mental health floor. I think it is not too much to ask to stop doing that and to stop using dehumanizing language as we all try to be healthier and better connected. So wanted to make that point.
Thanks for that, Molly. And you specifically called out the Department of Corrections, so I'm going to turn to Dr. Smith if he's still in this meeting to see if he wants to make any comments. Scanning, he may not. Oh, yes. Dr. Smith, you're with us, yes?
Hi, Supervisor, this is Miguel. Dr. Smith, unfortunately, he was with us just until 3:30 when he had to go to a different meeting.
Okay.
Just for that.
Thank you. Well, that's something that we can take up offline, Molly, and think about the best way to have some influence there. Any other comments or questions? If not, I want to thank everyone thank all of the presenters, for all of you who work at the county in any department. Hopefully the wellness services weren't news to you, but if they were, I hope that you'll find opportunities to take advantage of them. And if you've known about them but haven't engaged, can't imagine a more stressful year than 2020, and would just encourage everyone to at least look at what is offered and think about whether that's something that could be a benefit to you. That will close out, again, unless there are any final comments, we'll close out item 9, the study session. And we will move to item 10, announcements. Do any committee members have any announcements to share? Judge Ryan.
Yes, I would just like to say thank you, and it has been my privilege to work with all of you in this important committee over the last 2 years. My term as presiding judge will come to an end on December 31st of this year. Not that I'm counting down the days, but I will then happily transition off to do trials and preliminary examinations over at the Hall of Justice. But you will have the benefit of a wonderful person and leader, Judge Ted Zahner, who is our incoming presiding judge. So thank you again. It's been my privilege to work with all of you.
Thank you very much, Judge Ryan. It's been a privilege for us to have your voice and your insight in this committee, and I certainly wish you a complete and quick recovery.
Absolutely.
May I just add that I've been very grateful to Judge Ryan for her leadership. I have told her this in person and privately, but I will repeat it in public because I believe she has done really an extraordinary job leading us through an extraordinary time. And I can't imagine a better leader for the situations that we've all had to struggle with. And so I really appreciate your incredible dedication, Judge Ryan, and your tremendous work on behalf of the courts.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you very much. Are there other announcements?
Supervisor, this is Miguel. I just, my prior involvement in the court, so I have a good relationship with Judge Ryan, and prior to her, Judge Lucas, and with Judge Zahner going forward. All terrific to work with, but Judge Ryan, we've had a tremendous year, and it's really been a pleasure to work with you. I always go back to, at the end of the day, we have to look at what we've achieved And you've made so many changes at the court in light of all the things that are going on. But at the end of the day, we've had very few cases at the court of confirmed COVID. And that's a really, really tough space because you have to honor people's due process rights. Have to have people come into courts. You've opened the courts. You've kept the work moving forward. Done an extraordinary achievement over at the courts, and you've been a tremendous partner. And I just wanted to express my gratitude personally on behalf of the county. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Miguel. Are there other announcements?
Happy holidays, everybody.
Well, I have a quick one. But just want to quickly share that as a representative of the county, and on behalf of the board, I sit on the NACO, the National Association of Counties Justice and Public Safety Steering Committee. And the steering committee conducted a survey to identify the 3 policy priorities for 2021. And I just want to share those with you all as an informational item. The first priority is prioritizing improved health outcomes for justice-involved individuals through legislative action to improve the federal, state, and local partnerships in providing safety net services to pretrial incarcerated individuals who are currently denied access to federal benefits per the Medicaid inmate exclusion policy. Certainly a big lift. Our second priority will be to help decrease mental illness in jails by fully funding the Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program. And the third is to facilitate successful reentry by increasing funding for the Second Chance Act. So all of these requests, all of these priority areas are largely about significant sums of money, which probably will need to be online after all of the COVID recovery. But with the incoming Biden administration, I'm hopeful that some of these goals will be able to be accomplished. And with that, happy holidays. Be safe, stay home, wear your masks, wash your hands, social distance. Happy New Year. And we will look forward to seeing you all on January 7th at 2 p.m.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Vaccine and stimulus on the way.
Sure hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
All right. Dave and Jill, thank you so much for all of your help with this committee all year. You've made it easy for me, and I'm very, very grateful. And hopefully
You're welcome, Supervisor. Thank
we'll all
you.
be back hopefully in January doing the same thing.
Let's hope so.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, I stopped the recording. You're free to end the meeting whenever you like.
Thank you, Dave.